Do you want the Raiders to hire Kliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator? Give me a yes, give me a no, and when you come across this video, the most important question on today's show, and I'm going to give you my answer at the very, very end, yes or no, do you want the Raiders to hire Kliff Kingsbury? Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. Coming up on today's show, are the Raiders planning on hiring Kliff Kingsbury to be their OC? The reason why I'm thinking this is because I've said it once, I've said it twice, I've said it a million times. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of smoke right now around Kingsbury joining the Silver and Black. I will make you this promise. I make this promise a lot on this show. I love hanging out with the nation. You're not going to find anybody that works harder than what Jeremy and I do here, and you might not agree with everything that we say, but I think people respect the fact that we have that commitment to excellence because I have that commitment to all y'all. You guys are my family. Believe that. So we will be live once the Raiders hire an OC. I don't care what day of the week it is. I don't care what time it is. We went live for 26 hours at 1 a.m. when they fired McDaniels. If you don't think I'm going to be up here hooting and hollering when the Raiders hire an OC, man, you got another thing coming. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you got those notifications turned on. And let's turn up here a little bit. Let's talk about Kliff and his coaching experience, and then I'll get into why I think it is starting to lead to him being the next OC here for the team. He was the Houston offensive quality control coach in 2008 and 2009, and I think one of the reasons why Kliff is the way that he is because he's been a part of a lot of teams that, let's face it, they chuck the football around. He was the Houston co-OC and QB coach back in 2010 and 2011. Then he went to Texas A&M to be the OC and quarterback coach in 2012. This is where he, I think, started to take off. Texas Tech head coach really created this air raid, spread it out type of offense from 2013, 2018, had the opportunity to work with Patrick Mahomes. Then in Arizona, head coach from 2019 to 2023, and then in USC, the quarterback coach, where he is right now. So what I want to do here is I want to go through a little bit of a timeline, and I know that a lot of people are busy. People have a lot of other things besides following the Raiders, watching the Raiders Report. That's why I'm here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through this timeline of why I am thinking so confidently that the Raiders, I think, hinted at the idea of hiring Kingsbury. I just don't know if you saw it or not. And I put out some of this stuff on social media before, and if you don't already know, I'm at Mitchell Renz 365 everywhere. So Kingsbury was rumored to the Las Vegas Raiders a week before they ultimately decided to put in that interview request for him. So multiple reports come out on January 15th that had the Raiders linked to Kliff Kingsbury. The first person was Colin Cowherd. He was on a show, and the way that Cowherd said it was like, hey, man, I had a really good source reach out to me and tell me that it sounds like if AP is the man that is hired, his top choice to be the offensive coordinator is going to be Kliff Kingsbury. Then a few hours later, Caleb Williams declares for the NFL draft, and I was like, oh shit, are they about to do both of these things? Also, Albert Breer reported that he was hearing that not only Kingsbury but Getsy were linked to this potential job. Getsy then gets an interview. A few days later, Kliff Kingsbury gets an interview. So two people that definitely have a lot of connections that I think are well connected in the NFL world. When they both say something the exact same, I'm like, okay, I'm listening because a lot of smoke around this thing. Then the Raiders request his interview. So he has interviewed with a few other teams to be their OC. One of the teams was the Chicago Bears. And I know that Champ Kelly did not get the GM job, but he is still the assistant GM, has a lot of friends, has a lot of coworkers, has a lot of networking that he's done with the Bears in the past and has a lot of those connections. So then the Raiders request him to interview, and he is one of 6 candidates as it stands right now that I am filming this video. And as you can see, he is my number 1 Raiders OC candidate that I believe that they should go out and they should get. And then Zach Robinson in there at number 2. One of the things to note is with Raheem Morris just getting hired by the Atlanta Falcons, he was the DC for the Rams. I am curious because I said before that it's between Zach Robinson and it's between Kliff Kingsbury. Those are the top 2 candidates for the Raiders. If I'm Raheem Morris and I'm looking at that Atlanta Falcons team, I'm going, hey, I know it would be your first time calling plays, but Robinson, I want you to be my OC. So to me, I think Raheem Morris, he just got hired by the Falcons. Then you see Zach Robinson, he's going to go over to Atlanta, which then leaves Kliff Kingsbury as the clear choice for the Las Vegas Raiders. If it was up to me, when Kliff walks into that interview, you don't let him leave. Because if he does, I don't want any of the other guys to be the next Raiders OC. I'll tell you that right now. Let's go to the next reason here. And this honestly was the biggest one for me. And when you follow the Raiders as closely as I do, and it's my job to, and a lot of people, like I said, people are busy. They don't follow the ins and outs of it. But when you listen to what Antonio Pierce said in that press conference to me, I mean, as soon as he was talking, it was light bulb went off in my head, and I go, holy shit, they're going to end up hiring Kliff Kingsbury, aren't they? I'll tell you exactly what AP said, but before I do, man, because what Pierce said at his press conference, you also are going to be like, oh, yeah, man, I think Kliff Kingsbury is going to end up getting the job. I'll tell you what that was, but for those that do not know, there is an app out there that is an awesome, awesome app, and I think anytime that somebody wants to save a little bit of money to be able to go out to a city near you and have an awesome event, I want you to download the Game Time app right now, and if anybody plans on going to the big game, $100 off if you use code BIGGAME, or $100 off Big Game with code Vegas100. That's on me. So download the Game Time app right now, $20 off with code RaidersChat. Create an account. Use code RaidersChat for $20 off your first purchase. Also, the big game, it's right around the corner. Jeremy Chuggs and I, we're going to be out in Las Vegas. We're going to be partying it up. And if you plan on being out in Vegas and you want to go to the big game, use promo code Vegas100 to get $100 off a purchase of a ticket to the big game. Only valid for the big game. This offer is available to all users, not just new users. You can get some extra food and drinks with the savings to make the big game more enjoyable. I know Chuggs and I were talking about potentially going out, seeing Tom Segura with some of the money that, if I was saving $100, one of the first things I would do would be potentially go to an event under $50, potentially go to a Las Vegas Golden Knights game. There's sections on Game Time where you can see under $50, or if you just want to buy some extra beers, hang out with us, hey man, you absolutely could do it. But the reason why I love Game Time is it's literally created for going out to Vegas, last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed, Super Bowl weekend when we're out there. Like, I don't really want to tie us to too many plans because I've never been out there for the Super Bowl. I've never been in a city around the Super Bowl. So the fact that him and I can do whatever the heck we want, and then we're like, all right, let's go on Game Time. Let's find a last-minute ticket because they want to sell the tickets so that way nobody sits in them. There you go. You go to an event, have a good time. So if you want to go get started, the link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and down in the description. Download the Game Time app today. All right, so coming up here, what Antonio Pierce said at his press conference, which really kind of made me spark this idea of, I think that they're going to hire Kliff. So I went back, I had to look at some old reports, went back, started connecting a lot of dots, and then what AP said was really an eye-opener for me. And some of the things that he said of what he's looking for going forward, because I forget who asked the question directly, but they were talking about quarterback, they were talking about the offensive coordinator, and these were the four things that stuck out to me. That AP wants a teacher at OC. And the reason why that's important to me is one of the things that they've been really, really looking for are people that can help build and teach overall like what they're trying to go out and do. And to me, AP is a great teacher on the defensive side of the football. He doesn't have a lot of experience being a head coach, let's face it, right? So to me, the fact that Tom Telesco ended up getting hired, and because they didn't want a first-time GM, they didn't want a first-time head coach, well, Kliff Kingsbury does have experience calling plays. Kliff Kingsbury does have experience being a head coach, so he might be able to be the head coach on the offensive side of the football. Wants more explosive plays. Air raid, throw it down the field, bomb it down the fairway. I mean, that is what Kliff Kingsbury is known to doing. Taking shots down the field, lots of motion on offense. So to me, this screams, we need more speed at the wide receiver position. We need more playmakers. We need more vertical threats. You add all of that into with the people that the Raiders are hiring, that's Kliff Kingsbury, that's Zach Robinson. That is not anybody else on that list that I think is a legitimate hire for the Raiders. So you add all of that in. To me, it's like Kliff Kingsbury, man, I really think is going to be the next OC here for the Las Vegas Raiders. Then the next thing is this. If you're the Raiders, you know that you got to find your quarterback, right? It's been rumored that Champ Kelly was not really looking in the draft in terms of going out and finding a guy. And the fact that Kliff has worked with great quarterbacks, now you're going to see one name on here and you're going to be like, great quarterback, what the hell are you talking about? But Baker Mayfield was with him actually at Texas Tech, and he was best at OU. Best with OU. Kyler Murray with the Arizona Cardinals. Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. Caleb Williams at USC. But Baker, number 1 overall pick. Kyler Murray, number 1 overall pick. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the NFL right now. Caleb Williams potentially going to be the number 1 overall pick. So if I'm Antonio Pierce, if I'm Tom Telesco, I'm sitting there going, well, this guy has worked with some big-name QBs. He's had a lot of success in this air raid style of offense. And if I am trying to implement that, I do think that this is a guy who has worked with that big-name person before and has had some success airing it out. Plus, if you got a little bit of an insight on Patrick Mahomes, the guy that is haunting you right now and the rest of the NFL, why not potentially get a little bit of insight on that? So if Kliff Kingsbury is the Raiders OC, who's going to be the quarterback? And this is going to be a video that I end up making once the Raiders officially announce who they are hiring at OC. The video that I am going to make is my quarterback projection based on that OC. But let's play a game. Kliff Kingsbury is the Raiders OC. Who do you want to be the quarterback? To me, there's two names that I would really throw out there. Number one is obviously Caleb Williams, considering the fact that Kingsbury has worked with Caleb Williams before at USC. On top of that, if there's been one name that Caleb has been linked to, probably the most from an NFL comp, it's been Patrick Mahomes, who also Kliff Kingsbury has worked with. I also just think because it's Jaden Daniels and he has such a good connection with Antonio Pierce, Marvin Lewis is on this roster as well. Those would be the top two quarterbacks that they would look for, but I'm just going to be real. I also would love to have Drake May. I think he would have a lot of success with Kliff Kingsbury. Let's go now to the last reason. Well, actually, I'll tell you why I want you guys to hang out with Jeremy Chugs and I in Las Vegas. We're going to be doing a Super Bowl 58 watch party. Where? At the Ahern Hotel. Here is the address if you need to look it up. When is it going to be? Super Bowl Sunday, February 11th at 2 p.m. First come, first serve. I'm telling you that right now. There is limited space. It holds about 100 people. So if you want to make sure that you're going to get a seat, I would recommend getting there a little bit early. I will say this, no matter what, for the people that show up, you're going to get time to talk to Jeremy and I before, after the show. We have a full bar. We're going to have tons of food and drink deals there for the nation. And if you show up, if you want a free drink, believe me, we're going to have enough to be able to give around. I was asked, is it kid-friendly? I would say yes. Like, if you are comfortable with your kid watching the Raiders Report on YouTube, on television, then it's going to be the exact same thing there. It's just going to be more opportunities for you guys to come up on stage with us, have a beer bong, take a shot, have a good time, and we are just bringing the Raiders Report to you. But the reason why I'm really want you all to show up, if we kill this thing, then we can go out to Vegas every single game next season. And then that's going to take the Raiders Report to a whole new level. I think there's going to be some players there. We're going to have tons and tons of giveaways. It's going to be an awesome night. So please pull up if you support Jeremy and I and if you support the Raiders Report. Here we go. The last thing that I think of why I'm thinking, all right, I think it's going to be the Kliff Kingsbury train. If you've noticed, the Raiders have been hiring a lot of player coaches, people who have not only plenty of coaching experience, but people that also have playing experience, right? When you think about the last two coaches that the Raiders hired on the defensive side of the football, players and coaches. Think about Antonio Pierce, player and coach. When you hear somebody like Max Crosby, Devontae Adams talk about how much easier it is of an understanding between player and coach that, all right, like they've been there, they've done that. To me, what the Raiders are really trying to do is they're trying to build a certain roster. And even though Kingsbury did not play a lot as an actual QB, he did actually play in the NFL, which is still an unbelievable feat by a lot of people, right? He's played with the Patriots, the Saints, the Broncos, the Jets, and the Buffalo Bills, 5 seasons in the NFL. So when you add up all of those things, that's why I'm a big believer that Kliff Kingsbury is going to be the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders, unless something crazy happens. It has not been confirmed when exactly he's going to be meeting, and I'm going to be making this video here just so all y'all know on Thursday. So there might be a few things that end up changing, that ends up coming out. But from this moment right now, I do not know when Kingsbury is going to be interviewing. And if I'm the Raiders, he's your top target. He's the guy that I really want you to go out and get. And when he enters that room, you don't let him leave. You make him the offensive coordinator of the Las Vegas Raiders. And if and when that happens, we're going to be going live here on the Raiders Report.